Is the term God a title or is it a person? I have to understand, for me to believe something, I got to understand it.
Yes.
I grew up, I was wanting to know. I think that belief must be based on understanding and not blind acceptance. The moment I read Quran, I recognized it was true. Answering questions that I asked in my catechism class in church, that they couldn't answer. And I opened the Quran and I read it in Arabic and I understood what I say. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's an experience that I can't really describe.
Wow.
It is, I don't mind being surprised. So he said. So when he died,
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back to another episode of the Worldly Life Podcast. Today I got a very, very special guest, none other than Imam Daud himself, very well known in the community. He's one of the first to start giving dawah here in the North America, particularly Jersey area, New York. He's well known around, well respected. Sheikh, it's an honor to have you. Appreciate you. Very humble individual. He's been Muslim for longer than most of us was born. So Allah bless and reward and accept from you. Welcome to the podcast.
Sure, thank you.
No. All right. Today, without further ado, I want us to dive into your story a little bit. For those who don't know you, for those who never been introduced to you, you said that you was from where? Let's start off with where you from.
I'm originally from Barbados,
MashaAllah.
one of the Caribbean islands.
That's the beauty of Islam. You're gonna see Muslims from all over the globe.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. So Sheikh, how did you grow up? Tell us, walk us through your childhood a little bit.
Well, Barbados is like the unique thing about Barbados of all the Caribbean islands.
Yes.
Barbados was the gem of the British rule in the area.
Right.
The colonialists. So they adopted Barbados. They used to call it Little Britain
Yes.
at one point. And this is where they set up the headquarters to rule the region.
Okay.
This is where also they started the experiment with the slave. Barbados was the first or the incubator for chattel slavery.
Okay.
Which is completely different to regular slavery. Chattel slavery is what we are accustomed to, what we know.
Yes.
In this part of the world, other places, most people don't know what chattel slavery is.
Okay.
But, they started with it, as the British who started it, and Barbados was the place where they established it. It was the first totally slave society. There were the slaves and the people who run it. The economy was slavery. And after it became successful and they perfected it, then is when they exported it to South Carolina. Because the British still control North America at the time.
Okay.
And they exported to South Carolina, and from there it spread right across North America.
Gotcha.
So, I came, that's the background of society I came from. It was basic plantation. As a boy, I grew up as a plantation society.
So did you witness the actual slavery?
No, I didn't witness slavery. But when I was born back in the late, the 49. I was born for. Yeah, it was probably 4 or 5 years after the end of World War II.
Yes.
And Barbados was still a plantation society.
Gotcha.
Right, still had the plantations and everything, but from my generation, we were saved from working in the plantation. You had a choice because, once you go to school, you got out from that side. But I know quite a few people who their whole lives were on the plantation.
Oh, swallow.
Right? Still plantation living, you work with the plantation. Of course, you're free, but they still pay you plantation wages and all of that.
I guess industrialization has its benefits. Industrial revolution, I'm going to say.
It was still, the racist structure as it was before, where the slave the plantation owners were all white Europeans.
No.
And I think so. It is a society in which I grew up in as a boy.
No.
And of course that has changed now, but that's how I was back in the day.
Interesting. Did you grow up in, what predominantly did you grow up in the household religiously?
We're Christian. My family, especially my mother's side, because we grew up more on my mother's side than my father's side, they were Wesleyans. The Wesleyans, like the Methodists and those kind of people who were Protestant, the early Protestants from Catholicism.
Right.
So my family was basically Wesleyan.
Okay.
So they're like, very conservative Christians.
Okay.
They're very conservative Christians. My grandmother, I grew up with my grandmother.
Yes.
And she was hardcore conservative Christian.
MashaAllah.
All of my family still remain Christian to this day.
SubhanAllah, man. I'm not bad to Islam.
Alhamdulillah, man, I'll make it easy for them.
So how did you branch off? If your family still remain Christian to this day, how did you branch off?
Well, I mean, for me, when I committed to something, I like to be wholehearted in it.
Yes.
And so, I went to Sunday school and everything. My family were very involved in the church. And my aunt was my Sunday school teacher.
Yes.
So we were pretty much involved in the church all the time. But, as I grew, I began to question questions. And, when you get old enough, you get a teenager now, they want to, you got to get convert, they have to baptize you, go through this. So you got to go through these classes, these special classes that have catechism classes that you got to go through. And this is, where now we begin to start questioning these things, because they teach you. The Trinity was one of them.
Okay.
Right? The Trinity was one of the questions that I had in my mind, because my question to them was the term God, right?
Yeah.
You say God. Is the term God a title or is it a person? That was my question. Is it a title or a person? If it's a title, then Trinity is okay. It makes sense. Because many people can carry the same title.
Yeah.
So it's okay. But if it's a person, then you got a problem with it. How you're telling me there's one God, and still you're telling me all three. So, we get pictures. In those days, they used to got pictures in the Bible. So, or Sunday school Bible, I can still picture that Sunday school Bible, white Sunday school Bible that they had.
Yes.
And we have pictures in it.
Right.
I don't know if they do it now, but back then we had pictures in the Bible. We had pictures of Adam and Eve. We had pictures of Jesus.
Yes. Okay, we back. Yes. We back from break. I guess you can pick up where you left off. You was talking about the title.
Yes. So my question, and those in that came part was in the catechism class.
Yes.
Preparing to do the baptism thing.
Yeah.
And this was one of the questions I raised. That the term God.
Yes.
right, is either a title or it is a person.
Okay.
And I needed to know which one.
Yes.
Because they taught us Trinity,
Okay.
Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Now, if it is a title, then it's okay. I mean, Trinity makes sense. Hey, it's okay, no problem. But if it's a person, then it's a problem. Because then you got to say there are three gods, right? Rather than one God.
Right.
You know, because if it's a title, it's three persons with the same title. But if it's a person, then you can't have three because it would be, three can't be one. One is one or three is three. It's just two different things.
Right.
So, I used to get, this is one of the things we grappled with. They could never explain it to me on that basis. And based on the pictures I had in my Bible, I had a picture in the Bible, for instance, of the baptism of Jesus in the River Jordan. All right, there was a picture. In this picture, there was a picture of Jesus in the water, coming up over the water with John the Baptist standing over him. Right? So if this is, and then there is the dove. They said that the Holy Spirit took the form of a dove coming down. So you see this dove in the air, and then you see the sparks coming from the heavens, saying, "This is my son, in whom I'm well pleased." Now that was the picture, right? 1, 2, 3, in three different places. So they're not one. So we had that. So they couldn't explain none of that stuff to me.
How old was you when you came up with these questions?
I was a teenager. I was a youngster. Probably.
You just couldn't grasp that.
Yeah, I could. So stuff like that we had issues with, and we would always go from this and that. I could never get through the catechism class. My sisters and everybody went through it,
right,
and they got baptized, and I never got through it. So I never got baptized.
A lot of Christians, what they will say is, you just gotta believe. It's not everything you're gonna understand about God.
Yeah,
you just gotta blindly believe it.
That was my second problem. You just have to believe it because God is a mystery. That was this whole mystery aspect that they presented. Yeah. Well, my question was my challenge with that was that God created my intelligence. He created me with the ability to understand and know. Question. There's even a passage that says, come let us reason together, saith the Lord. Yes. That's a passage in the Bible. Mm-hmm. So it's calling for me to reason. So to tell me not to reason is really going against what it says. Come, let us reason. True. All right? So you're going against that. That's one point. Second point is that since God created my reason, my logic, and my reason and common sense, it is not intelligent to think that God is repugnant to reason. How could God be repugnant to reason? So, we should be able to reason on God. And about God, we should be able to reason because He's the one who created reason in the first place. And the book, it says, come let us reason. So
that's in the Bible.
Yes, it is in the Bible.
Yes.
So we used to have these kind of discussions, and because I have to understand. For me to believe something, I got to understand it.
Yes.
I grew up. I was wanting to know. I got to know. So if I know it, I could believe it because I know it.
Correct.
All right. Because for me, I think that belief must be based on understanding and not blind acceptance. Exactly. That was my belief. That was my position. Blind acceptance. And, you can lead me anyway, right? Do I know anything? No, I gotta know where I'm going. So for me, that was my position. So I never got baptized in the church. Yes, I never got baptized in the church.
Mashallah.
So I never became like official, because once you're a teenager, you go to the catechism and they baptize you, you're an official member in the church, I never got through that. All right, and well, after a while, I just got tired of it, and when I got old enough that I could say I'm not going to church anymore, I stopped. Because we were growing up, it was not a choice, we had to go.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to go, we had to go Sunday school, we had to go to church and stuff like that. But once I got old enough, I got 16, 17, like that, I could stop going to church.
Okay.
I didn't have to go, and stuff. So I stopped going because it didn't make sense to me anymore. I couldn't reason on it anymore. So, and then I drifted from there to other things. From there, I got involved with. I had a group. Got involved in a group. We had a nice group of youngsters. We would meet and discuss issues and stuff like that. And one of the members of our group, two of them actually, their mother was part of one of the secret societies, the Rosicrucians.
Interesting.
All right, the Rosicrucians. So she always talked to us about different stuff, and interested us to be part of this youth group.
Yeah.
It's called the Theocratic Research Association.
Incredible research. I'm actually
Yeah, it was a small group that was formed, and we became part of the group. It was headed by one of the Grand Masters in the Rosicrucians. His name was we used to call him Master Tobin. Yeah. I don't know what his full name was, but we used to call him Master Tobin. And so then we used to do on Sunday afternoons, he would come and do sessions with us.
Okay.
And teach us stuff, and we went through, we talk about reincarnation, they talk about spiritualism, they talk about different stuff like that. They try to teach you breathing exercises and stuff, preparing you to actually become a Rosicrucian.
Yes.
All right? And it was in that phase that I got interested in Islam. So I never got to become a Rosicrucian. Many of the youngsters who were with me in the group became Rosicrucians. Yes. I never became a Rosicrucian. I think Allah SWT was guiding me along.
How old was you at that time?
I was about 18, 19.
Okay, so you was an older teenager at that
Yes, I was 18, 19. We went in that group, yes. I was an older teenager, I was about 18.
How did Islam, how you come about
so, I've always been an avid reader. So I used to read everything, man. I used to read all that. I've always been an avid reader. I used to collect books and read. I love reading. And so I read about all kinds of stuff. I had a book that talked about religions, but I read some of them, but I was not too keen. The book that I had, that Islam, they when they mentioned Islam, they call it Mohammedanism.
Mohammedan.
Yeah, the book that they had on these world religions.
Yes.
It was called Mohammedanism.
Yes.
Of course, that was one of the ploys of the Orientalists to obscure Islam.
Yes.
So I didn't know at the time, but for me, when you say Mohammedanism, I equated it with Christianity.
Yes.
So I said Christianity is about worshiping Christ. Then Mohammedanism would be about worshiping Muhammad.
Yes.
And since I reject the first one, there's no need for me to adopt the second one.
Yes. So
I never really actually read it. Because I equated the two based on the name. All right? Yeah. So I never read it. Okay. So I went into this, we started doing a lot of spiritualism with this group. Reading a lot of stories of it.
What group is this?
The same group, the kind of research youth group that we had. Mm-hmm. He taught us from a book, it was called The Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ. Right? I think by Roger Bacon or one of his fathers.
Yes.
It was called Aquarian Gospel of Jesus. We studied that. That was one of the books that we studied. and some other books and stuff like that we studied. He would teach us different things, They don't believe that they didn't believe in prophets being appointed by God. They believed that prophets were masters who developed themselves. We're learning the secret arts of life.
Yes.
Right? So, the at least the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ was about the missing years of Jesus, that is not told in the Bible. The Bible goes for Jesus up to 12 years old, and he was 12 years old, and he was in the temple stuff. And then between that time and when the next story came up, when he was with his mother at a wedding, he's a full man now, he's in 30s. There's nothing but those years between Jesus being from 13 to 30. There's nothing in the Bible about those years of Jesus' life.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's nothing about it. So this Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ is purported to be telling this story of those missing years of Jesus' life.
Okay.
And they believe, of course, that Jesus went to Tibet, and he studied with the lamas of Tibet, and he studied, he gained higher knowledge, and they call them masters. So he became a master. So Jesus was a master, it's like Moses was a master. So all the things that they're able to do, that we would call miracles, they were able to do these things because of the special knowledge that they were able to train, and training that they went through to be able to do it. So this is the kind of thing that, Jesus was not supposed to be the Son of God or anything like that. That is what we will learn that from that. He just became a master because he went and he studied, and he spent all those years from 12 up to 30 studying with the masters in Tibet.
Okay.
All right, so this way he was able to develop all the skills that he was able to, do what we call miracles.
All right.
Because miracles for them they're natural things that people are able to do once they reach a certain level of training and development. That's what basically he used to teach us. And they taught about reincarnation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Back in those days, I was into music also.
Word?
Yeah, I was into music.
Did you write bars?
No, I played the guitar.
Oh, okay.
I was into that. So, and it is, I love where the director of my life. It was in that context of being involved with music and meeting, mixing with musicians and people who play that. I was able to meet a group. We had a nice big festival back in 69, I think.
Yeah.
In 68 or 69, I think probably 68.
Yeah.
They had a big festival. And in that festival, they had a group from the Northeast US.
Yes.
I don't know if it was Philly or where we were from. They were from the Northeast.
Okay.
It was called William the Magnificent.
Okay.
And in that came down to participate because all these different bands, that whole pile of bands played. Something like, we call it a mini Woodstock.
Okay.
Right? The Woodstock, so they call it mini Woodstock. Okay. So we had a mini Woodstock. And so this group from the Northeast came down and to participate in this group. And two brothers in that group were Muslims.
Okay.
Really the Magnificent. They were new Muslims. They haven't been Muslims long.
Okay.
Soon, the early. They were early in Islam. They just become Muslims and stuff like that. But they were part of the group. So I was able to interact with them. I met with them. We had some good talks and stuff like that, discussions and stuff. So they sparked my interest in Islam because they're talking about Islam and Quran and stuff like that, not Mohammedanism. So there's something new, it's different for me, and hearing this for the first time. And so because of what we heard through the Nubian stuff,
Yeah.
You know, Nubianism, I wasn't too impressed with that. You know, through that group they call it the Nubian Hebrew Islamic Missions. You know, that was the title that they had, you know, and they used to put all this kind of stuff. Man, I wasn't really interested. It didn't impress me, so I wasn't really interested in that. Although I met them before I met these brothers. But these brothers we had some serious discussions because we had some deep discussions with them.
Okay.
And you know, they used to pray and everything. You know, which impressed me somewhat, you know, because in those days we didn't pray, you know. You meditate a bit, but you don't pray, you know, but they'll excuse themselves for the conversation, saying that they're going to pray and come back, you know. So that was something that I noted with them. But, you know, we read some of their literature that they had, so it sparked my interest to now go and research Islam.
Okay.
So that's basically how my journey started. I started not to after they
So
left.
they planted the seed a little bit.
Yes.
I.e., from watching them going to pray.
Yes.
Then after that,
we were praying and talking and discussing, you know, having discussions on because they were challenging a lot of the ideas that now I don't learn from the Rosicrucians.
Yes.
All right. They challenge reincarnation, and they challenge a lot of stuff that we learned. You know, so it was intriguing.
Yes.
I mean, I can investigate it. All right. So they gave me a little pamphlet called Life After Death.
Yes.
I think it was by Abu Alam al-Dudi.
Yes.
You know, I read it and it makes sense. Yeah, it made a lot of sense. So now it sparked my interest now to now go and research Islam.
Yes.
So this is when I started. I go to the library, started researching. We talk about the Quran also. They mentioned the Quran. I had never heard about the Quran before.
Okay.
So it was the first time.
How old are you at this point?
I was over 19, as I said. I was around, 1920, about that, or 20, maybe. 1920, somewhere around there.
All right. How was your search to Islam? How did that really go?
So, I mean,
You started searching.
after what intrigued me was they talked about the Quran. They talked so highly about this book that I never heard about. You know, this is the most authentic book it is. This is the most powerful book. This, that, and they praising up this book. You know, for us, you know, the Aquarian gospel of Jesus Christ was a big thing for us because the average person never had this book or never seen the Aquarian gospel of Jesus Christ or the 6 and 7 books of Moses.
Right.
This is another spiritualist text that teach you secret arts and stuff like that. You know, so for us these were important books.
Okay.
You know, and these guys is telling us, you know, this Quran man tops everything, man. So I gotta see this Quran, man. I gotta see what it's all about. So after they left, you know, I started going. So I went to the library.
Yes.
And I had to go to the reference area because they didn't have any Quran in the regular library to borrow. Yeah. So in the reference section, I said, "You got this book?" They said, "Yes, we got." Somebody had thing in the reference section. Yeah. So it was an old Yusuf Ali translation, 2 big volumes that they had. So you can't take it out. You could only sit down there and do research from it.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. And the moment I read Quran, I recognized it was true. Moment, I mean, I knew that there was an absolute truth. I knew there was. There must have been. There had to be. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to recognize it. But I knew if I see it, I would know it. And so when I start reading Quran, I recognize it. This stuff is correct stuff. This is good stuff. And I was impressed. So I mean, I spend a little while. I just would go to the library, sit and read Quran. In English, it's translation.
Yusuf Ali translation.
Yusuf Ali translation.
Well, what about it impressed you? How did you know it was the truth, though?
It's just the message that it gave. It's the message. His message was simple, pure, and straightforward. It's telling you, what it's like, who is God, and stuff like that, It is giving you, it is answering questions that I ask in my catechism class in church that they couldn't answer. And they would turn me all around the place about this, no, you need to stop thinking so much and stuff like that. And this would answer you like that. So as I read it, I'm getting answers to the issues that I've been raised. Because I believe that there must be a God.
Absolutely.
I just didn't know who was God.
Okay.
I had no knowledge about who God was and anything. I didn't know what should I believe about God.
Okay.
I didn't. This is a question that I need to know, how do I relate to God? Or how does, these are questions that I had as a young man. I need to know. And they couldn't tell us. They couldn't tell us.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't give me practical answers. So, but when we read the Quran, it's explaining things so simple. It's making it clear to you who God is, what, and there's a temple creation, and this. I mean, it was like...
It's like night and day.
Yeah, it's like night and day. I mean, this book got it all in here. So I was impressed. I just used to go there every day and just read. So let's read the Quran all the time. Let's go read it. And as I got into it, then I decided, okay, just let me do a research on the religion itself.
Okay.
So I started researching anything to do with Islam. I pick up the terms Islam, Muhammad, names like this, things that I just started to research and everything on it. I go my Encyclopedia Britannica, and I go all the, pick everything I can find, pick up and read about this stuff.
Right.
So I went for a while like that, just researching and stuff, until someone told me, there's a Muslim place of worship not far from the library. I said, you sure? They said, yes. Muslims and there was Muslims in the area were not that active.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were not active, such, So they were more from the Indo-Pak subcontinent, right? So they were Indo-Pak, yes.
Okay.
So,
Where that side exactly? Where that side exactly?
There's Indo-Pakistani. There were Indians raised from India.
Okay, I knew that. I was just for the viewers.
Yeah. So
Okay.
the people in the area, where the masjid was,
Yeah.
the people thought it was just to call an Indian temple. Because they never told the people what it was all about that stuff. They never really give any doubt to people.
So pretty much there was Muslims in the country.
Yeah.
And they even allowed people to call it whatever they wanted.
They were, because it was very close. It was,
okay.
a very close introverted group.
Yeah.
So, that's when we got, so we went, what is it? It's just the Indian temple over there. Okay. So we went there. I said, no, I need to go see this place. I went, and I was impressed with the masjid. Look at just the simplicity of the place. Chairs, the pictures, just building with carpet, man. And the place is quiet and easy. I was really impressed with it, just the simplicity of it. You can feel this ambience of peacefulness.
No.
I of course I didn't go and I just looked through the windows. But there's a moment from that I had Muslims in the country.
Yeah.
So I thought, there was the muaddin at the masjid apparently. He told me about where you can find Muslims. So I went on a visit with this Muslim brother. So then I started to, he was very open. Brother William, he was a Hafiz of Quran too. Yeah, his name was Hafiz Muhammad Degi.
Yes.
So I went to his home. I went to his home to meet him. Yeah, when his brother told me about it. So I went there one evening after work. I met him, and he was very welcoming and accommodating, you know. And so we had sat down there for a couple hours just talking.
Yeah.
So he piqued my interest.
Okay.
And he offered, you know, I can come and sit and talk with him about this anytime. So after that, of course, I used to go by him regular, you know, and so we would just sit down and talk about Islam, and you know, he would answer my questions, and we would go backward and forward. He had a nice little library, so I would borrow his books and read them. So I started reading books from his library, Islamic books on Islam from his library then, as opposed to going to back to the public library, which none of the books, they're all written by non-Muslims.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even if you found a translation, an English translation, they come by a fellow called George Sale.
Yeah.
Yeah, which one of the Orientalists. I've learned later on was one of the Orientalists. I wasn't impressed by it. I think Yusuf Ali to me was much better than the George Sale translation.
Yes.
But you know, so much this is where my journey started to study, and you know, until eventually I reached to a point where he said, you know, you need to become a Muslim, you need to take Shahada. Because I didn't want to do Shahada.
Yeah.
So yeah, he offered, and so they had we went to a seminar, a conference.
Yes.
And they had, and one of the guest lecturers, he was Professor Abdul Salam. He was a Sheikh from Azhar who was visiting at that time. He gave me Shahada. So then, you know, so it's from there, that real thing. But one of the things that really drove me was, I would think, you know, this Quran, I'm reading Yusuf Ali, and this is so powerful. And there were those things that is, you know, if this is the translation, so this is Yusuf Ali's understanding of Quran. To the Quran, because they got the Arabic there. So I'm fascinated to learn this Arabic.
What?
Yeah, I'm fascinated with it. Because I mean, if Yusuf Ali could read the Arabic and I put it in English, what if I could read the Arabic and understand for me? So I started thinking. So I got this interest now to how to learn Arabic.
No.
So I could understand the Quran.
No.
That's basically what I wanted to learn Arabic for. I wasn't interested in. I didn't know anything about being a sheikh or being this Imam and that stuff. I didn't know anything about that stuff. My interest was there. I want to learn some Arabic, so I could understand this Quran for myself. I want to understand it for me.
Okay.
You know, and that's what drove me to try to find out how we can thing. And eventually, in 71 or 72. It's when I got a scholarship to go to Medina.
Really?
And this how I went on.
So that's 1 or 2 years after you took Shahada?
Yeah, 2 years after I became.
Oh, so you became Muslim in 1970?
Yeah.
You took your Shahada?
I took my Shahada at 70, and by 72, I went off to study.
How was it to apply? Did you apply? Did you get recommendations?
There was, from the Saudi embassy in Venezuela.
Yeah.
The Saudi ambassador, one of the local Muslim organizations, he offered them scholarships. So I applied to the organization to get one of those scholarships.
Smart.
So I got a scholarship to go, and so I went in 72. Went off to
Islamic Medina University.
Yeah, Islamic University.
How was it going there for the first time? Arabian Peninsula.
It was an experience.
It
was an experience.
Okay.
Because back then Jamia Islami was new.
Yes.
It wasn't a big institution as it is today.
Okay.
They had it was built on the barracks of army barracks.
Yeah.
So they only had a couple of new buildings. They had the administrative buildings were new, 1 to 3 administrative buildings.
Yes.
And they had 2 or 3 dorm buildings that were new.
Yeah.
All the other dorms were huts for the army used to use, so they had no heating or anything in it. And they had 2 colleges only in those days.
Okay.
They had College Sharia and College Daud or Suludi.
And which one you?
Yeah, and they had the Shahada, department, and they had the Islamic Institute, and they had high school or middle school.
What did you study?
So I went in. I went through the Islamic Institute after studying the Shahada. I did the diploma in Arabic,
Yes.
and then I went into the institute to do general Islamic studies, and from there I wanted to go into Sharia. I didn't go into Sharia eventually, but I did something. I did a little bit of Daud Suluddin, but I didn't finish that part.
How long you would study in Medina?
I stayed in Medina from 72 to 77, late 77 I came out.
5 years.
Yeah, late 77 I came back. Yeah, of course everything started to change. Malik Faisal, he was killed in 70.
He was killed?
Yeah, he was shot. Malik Faisal was shot. Remember, his cousin, his nephew killed him. Right, Malik Faisal. So after Malik Faisal was killed, things changed in the university because Sheikh Baz was the chancellor of the university.
The what?
Jam Islami was a different institution back then, right? Jam Islami was an institution that was established by King Faisal.
Yes.
Right? It was established. He had an international committee that he formed and headed by Sheikh bin Baz. Right? And Sheikh bin Baz, he was connected to Faisal. I think they had the school together or something, but they had a close relationship.
Okay.
So he set up this institution, the Jamiat Islamiyya. It was not under the Ministry of Education, it was an independent body at the time. Okay. Right? It's later, after his death, they brought it under the Ministry of Higher Education. It came under them afterwards, which it is now. But back then, it was a separate in this institution. Sheikh bin Baz was the boss. Okay. Right? He ran that institution. Okay. He went to Riyadh every year to get his budget. Yes. So the king would give him his budget, and he'd come in. He ran the institution. They had an international committee would come in, and they would meet, once a year and discuss the stuff. And he would go and collect his budget, and he ran the university, ran the institution. I think Sheikh bin Baz was a big one back in those days. May Allah mercy and grant him Jannah. Right? So we got a chance. I mean, I was fortunate to sit in many of his sessions, classes with him, Sheikh bin Baz, Omar Falata, Sheikh Omar Falata. Yes. Also, he was the secretary of college at the time. Right. So he was the head of Dar Hadith at the time. Yes. Sheikh Abad, he was one of the professors in the university, and he was an assistant to Sheikh. I think he was an assistant there before he took over and became head after Sheikh Baz was. They moved Sheikh Baz.
What was his name?
Sheikh Abad.
Okay.
Sheikh Abad.
Okay.
So he was an assistant.
All right.
But Sheikh Omar Falata was the secretary of the college of the university, and Sheikh Baz, of course, was the head. No. So I was fortunate. It was at a time you had all kinds of other people in those days back there. It was good. I was fortunate to be able to sit with a lot of them. Sheikh Abu Bakr Jaziri used to have his own class. He had a class in Masjid Nabawi, the session. He was one of the teachers, and he sat, and he had a special session, a halakha that he used to do in Jama Islamiyya, in Masjid al-Nabawi, right? So he was able to, his book, Minhaj al-Muslim, that he used to teach that, right? So that was one of my main things that we did with.
Which scholar you benefited from the most during your studies?
Well, I mean, I benefited from a lot of scholars right across the board. I can't, say this, But Abu Bakr Jalili, when it comes to general Islam, fiqh, stuff like that, I benefited a lot from him. Abu Bakr Jazari, and I had a whole lot of scholars around at the time, so you could sit and listen to them. You go, and in those days, Sheikh Nasruddin Albani, rahimahullah, he was still living in Jordan, but he used to come every year because he had a lot of students in Medina. So every year he would come and he would spend a couple of weeks in Medina, and he would conduct his class in Masjid al-Nabawi. Sheikh, my brain is getting old. So Muhammad al-Shinkiti, the senior, his top student, I forget his name now, I should forget his name. But the one one of his top students, the one who inherited his chair.
Yes.
When he died, he inherited his chair.
Yes.
And he was one of the professors at Dar Hadith too. He inherited his chair. So when Sheikh Nasser came to Medina, he would occupy his chair. He would vacate and allow him occupy his chair, so he would teach his class from there. So I had a lot of these sheikhs that would come and you would wait to sit. You could just go sit in the class. You didn't hear back. It was very open back in those days. You could sit in the classes and learn from them. So it was a very different situation back then. But then when Sheikh bin Baz was killed,
I didn't know he was killed. He was killed.
Not Sheikh bin Baz.
Faisal.
King Faisal.
Yes.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I met him too.
Oh, what's up?
Yeah, I was young. We went on a trip, and I was able to visit King Faisal. We visited with him.
Yes.
And we met King Faisal. It was very simple man. But he was firm. He was the last absolute monarch that they had in Saudi.
Oh, that's up.
Yeah. After that, it was always power sharing. He was the last absolute monarch. When he said something, it went. He was a no-nonsense kind of person, But a very simple person, very simple man. We had our audience with him. It was a group of us, a group of students. Right?
MashaAllah. So I see that you have a variety of experiences sitting with the Sheikh or Imami and the King of Saudi Arabia. After your studies, you eventually come back to Barbados. You see that one of the people who gave you Shahada passed away, right?
Yeah, the one who gave me Shahada, he was. He was a Sheikh from Azhar.
Okay.
He only was visiting the region for a period of time. He went back to Egypt.
Okay.
But he gave me the Shahada.
Okay. How did your journey begin?
But then, after I came back from studying, and I started doing, classes. A lot of brothers would ask me to do classes and stuff like that, stuff, which really I wasn't really planning for, because I didn't go for that.
Yes.
I just went to learn Islam for me.
Yes.
I mean, it might be a little selfish, but yeah, I was interested,
Save yourself.
Yeah. I was at a people always come, I want to do a class, come do this class, come do this class. That's how I got caught up in it. Trinidad, so I decided to move around the Caribbean, join the islands.
Yeah.
I started a class in Trinidad, just to go and spend some time with some brothers to cut up classes with them. So I did Trinidad, and then from there move right through the region, so I went through all the different islands, and do classes with them, Grenada, Dominica, the other islands, Caribbean islands that we were going to spend.
That's right.
So I was going to spend like 2 weeks at a time and, do classes.
So you pretty much want to give it down with
Yeah,
places.
yeah. So you start doing.
Were you married at this time?
Not yet, no.
Oh, okay.
I didn't marry yet, And then I met a brother who was in Guyana. He was the living in charge of the affairs in Guyana, and he was active in Daud also doing our intern in Guyana. We had a very good get together, and he convinced me to move to Guyana to help work with him.
Yes.
So this is how we wound up in Guyana.
Okay.
So I went from Trinidad, from Barbados to Guyana. And so I stayed in Guyana. We developed a whole lot of programming to think when it was back in those days. It was in Guyana. A lot of Muslims in Guyana.
Yes.
But they were not knowledgeable about Deen and stuff like that. So it was at first we met a little resistant, but we started with the youth. And alhamdulillah, to develop, and we have a very beautiful situation of Muslims developing and growth. We found one of the organizations, one of the main organizations in Guyana today. It's called the Guyana Islamic Trust.
Oh, mashallah.
Right, I was one of the founder members.
That's a reward your work, man. How was it going to those different countries? What did you notice the difference between Dominica, Trinidad, Barbados, and all the places you went? How was it different?
Yeah, well, with all the different groups, was able to work with all the different Muslim groups throughout. I went through, even Belize. I spent some time in Belize.
Yes.
I spent some time in Panama.
Okay.
Through most of these groups,
There's Muslims all over this place.
Yeah, the Muslims all over. And then the last, then I grew up in the Bahamas.
Yes.
So I was Imam in the Bahamas. Before I came here, I was Imam in the Bahamas for 9 years or so. Yeah.
What's next? I won't be surprised if you end up being an Imam in Mexico.
So actually, back when I was in Bahamas, I used to come here and do classes, do lectures and stuff like that. Back in those early days, of Quran and Sunnah Society. Yes. I was very active back in those early days, back in the early 90s. The Quran and Sunnah Society was active and stuff like that. So a lot of the shuyukh used to get them to come down. That's how we know how I met Daud and all of us, a lot of the brothers from the movement in that manner. Because they would, we have them, come down and we had back in the early days, everybody was together.
You're talking about now when you came here to the States?
No, when it was in the Bahamas.
Oh, when you was in the Bahamas?
Yeah, I'm talking back in the 90s.
Okay.
When it was in the Bahamas. We used to get them to come down and do classes, do programs with us.
Yes.
For the community again.
Oh.
We had Abu Muslim came.
Yes.
Back in those days, we got Abu Osama. Came over in those days, and Sheikh Jubali. Yeah. We had quite a few of them come through, and do sessions with the community over there. Before eventually I moved to this area, and these brothers keep every time I come, they say, we need you to come help us with our community.
We're trying to chill and everything.
Eventually I wound up coming, so here we go.
And how long you was here for?
20-something years, 25, 26 years.
Inshallah, this is the last rodeo over here?
Well, this is my last spot. Yeah, my last spot.
That's very interesting.
So I move around all over the place.
Beautiful. So, what was your toughest loss?
For me, it's difficult to say. We had a lot of challenges. We had a lot of challenges. Yeah. We had a lot of challenges in work,
Yes.
right? You know, I said like for the brother who we collaborated with in Guyana to build the program in Guyana.
Yes.
He eventually, you know, he went back to Libya, and Gaddafi and killed him.
And they ended up killing him.
Yeah, they want to kill him because you know he was too strong into Islam and stuff like that. You know, and they into the socialist nonsense. You know that they were into. You know, Gaddafi had what they call the Green Book.
Yes.
And he put out a book, you know, for his socialist theory. He put it out in a book called the Green Book.
Right.
You know, so I remember the kids back in the you know, the students and stuff, they call it it is a batik, it is a watermelon. It's green on the outside and red on the inside. But he got, you know, that was a good loss for me. He already had, because, you know, he was young, I got him, Janet Firdaus, he was a very, very keen Islamic worker. Did a lot for the Islamic struggle, you know, so.
Sorry.
So I messed with him, you know. Also, when, you know, I was very sad when King Faisal got killed.
No.
Because, you know, King Faisal was such a strong Muslim.
No.
Very committed. Most of the development of Saudi Arabia, he's the one who started the whole development of Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it was he and his King Faisal, not his brother. It was him who started the development of Saudi Arabia in terms of schools, in terms of, you know, like modern development.
Actually, interestingly, my dad actually met King Faisal, and he was good for him. He became like cool with him, and I think he wrote letters to King Faisal, and King Faisal actually responded. So they developed a relationship. So he said when he have a son, he's gonna name him that. That's why I mean.
That's how you know Faisal.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, King Faisal was very humble.
Yeah.
You know, I was surprised. He was a very humble man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I was shocked when I met with him. When we met him, you know, it was a group of students. You know, we had to meet with him. And, you know, I was surprised how humble he was, you know, as a person. And his security detail was a bunch of old men with pea shooters. So, you know, just to show, people loved him. People loved him, really. People loved him. I think, you know, Malik Faisal, he was very well loved by his people, you know. But, you know, that boy, his nephew who killed him, you know, had a beef for him because he
see that in history.
He pressed him. That boy used to be here in the States, you know, but he was a disgrace to the family. So when Faisal didn't play, you know, tell him bring him home, and he's
Have you ever? I know because you know you went to the islands, you went spreading Daud, you helped a lot of Muslim communities. Have you at one point ever been pretty much someone had a hit out for you, or government threatened, or trying to sabotage you?
I remember in Grenada, myself and another brother called Yusuf, may Allah have mercy on him, he passed away too. So Muhammad Yusuf and myself, we said we can do some dawah in Grenada.
Yes.
Back then. So we go to Grenada, the head of Grenada, his name was, the Prime Minister was Gary, right, at the time. And we went there, and the Governor General was Dr. Lobaino. We went from there, we get them down from there, we started from there. We went to the government house that where the Governor General lived.
Yes.
And we didn't get to see her. She was unavailable by her husband.
Yes.
So we had to meet with him, we give him a Quran. And we never met with the Prime Minister, but the opposition leader, Morris Bishop, was the opposition leader, the one who actually did the revolution and overthrew the Gary government, and he became Prime Minister.
Yes.
But before that, we met him, and we tried to give him dawah to they were communist socialist people, they believe in God and stuff like that. It was kind of thing with it. But we met with them. When we started giving dawah to the people, when they already had a strong arm group, they took on the Mongoose gang.
Yeah.
Right? And any opposition and stuff, they used to go after them.
Right.
So when they found that we were there, we doing dawah, we giving out, they came to me.
They pulled up on you?
Yes, they came and they says, look, I tell you, he says, this was the very weekend. He says, by Monday, you get on that plane and you leave this place. And by Monday, we come and we swing around and we find you still here, you're not going to like it.
Straight up. They
Straight. They
sugarcoated.
They said, if you leave here, we give you to Monday. And if you don't leave this place by Monday, if you swing around and we find you, we can deal with it. Don't. So, they're gonna book a flight quick.
He got on that first flight over there.
Book a flight quick and they got over there. Yeah, but they threatened they were ruthless. Yeah, that group was a ruthless group, I didn't want to talk about them, but we just here to get down, we are peaceful, we're not here to fight nobody. But we said, we don't want you here. Yeah, that's the time.
But that was the only time.
Yeah, that's the only time that we actually came face to face with things like that.
Never, nothing in this country or nothing.
No, here, no. We never had any issue here. Never had an issue anywhere else. That was the only time that we had because, they were Catholic.
Yes.
Christians, and there was a Christian, thing. There was so big statue of Jesus, stuff like that. So anybody come preaching, anything Islam, anything outside of that, you get problems.
Right.
So we weren't silent about it. So and the word spread. It was a small society. Word spread about this, fellas coming up, giving, spreading their religion and stuff like that. So that's what was run up on me. And, because the other one, he was a Grenadian.
Yes.
Yusuf was good, so they can't do him anything, because he's a Grenadian.
Yes.
But I wasn't Grenadian, so they roll up on me, they said, you gotta leave. If you don't leave this place, you're gonna be, So I had to leave.
Okay, my question then, obviously, you became Muslim, you said most of your family didn't really accept Islam, right?
No, my family didn't. They thought I I went off track. Because
have you ever had discussions with them?
Yeah, many times. My family, they are, as I said, they were not just.
We're gonna do this like Glad TV.
Yeah, they were serious Sunday go meeting people.
Yes.
They were really, really involved in the church.
Okay.
Right, so my cousin who I grew up with, he's a pastor. My cousin, I got a cousin married to another pastor, and this and that. So they're actively involved in religion.
Okay.
It was easy. It was a difficult thing with them, to convince them of anything, After I left, after I became Muslim, they actually sent some of the elders after me.
Yes.
But by then I already had a good foundation in Islam. Because I didn't become a Muslim just like that. I studied Islam.
No.
Yeah, I was studying, so I understood, what it was. Yeah. I knew why I became a Muslim. Yes. I knew what Islam was all about and why I became a Muslim. So I did that before I actually became a Muslim. No. So when they came, I was able to
get up out of
correct them up, straighten them up a bit, and they went back and told them, look, don't worry, he's gone. He's gone.
We ain't getting him back.
Yeah, don't worry, we ain't getting him back. He's gone. So they left me alone for a while. They left me after that, but they kept their kids away from me. One nephew, I gave him Shahada.
MashaAllah.
And they tried their best, they tried to pull him back in, But after that, I'm one uncle that nobody allowed, they never allowed my sisters or brothers, never allowed any of the kids to come and stay with me, spend time with me.
Ever since that.
Ever since that one person. They
So-
never. So nobody,
So are you in contact with them? They don't even want to speak
Yeah,
to
no,
you?
we keep
Oh,
contact with them and stuff like that. I maintain, as a Muslim, we gotta
Yes.
maintain relations with your relatives and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in terms of religion, no, we don't. Even my own twin sister, she'll tell you, look, let's remain family and friends. They don't want to discuss religion, I wrote a book called That Prophet Revealed.
Yes.
Right? It's based on the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah says, الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم في التوراة. Those who follow the unlettered prophet whom they will find
Yes.
recorded in them in their scriptures. So when I compare the I said, but that it means it has to be in the Quran. The Quran says that he's recorded in their books.
No.
That you need to go in the books and study more.
Okay.
So I did a whole study and research. I got a lot of different Bibles and for dictionary, and I studied. I went into study it deeply, and then I wrote a book on it.
Mashallah.
Right, talking about the prophet, showing that the prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is recorded in the Bible.
No.
Clearly.
No.
I mean they try to obscure it, but it's really in there. So I wrote this book. So I said, okay, let me like every Thanksgiving, one of my family would have my big sister, or one of them would have a gathering in a house. So I would go and they would invite me, I'll go visit them, and stuff. So this particular year I decided I'm gonna I got a whole box of the books, and I went there and gave everybody that was there a copy of that book.
No.
That was the last time we had it.
Yeah, you invited you.
Last time.
Where can we find that book at if we want to?
I'll give you a copy. Probably got a copy at the house.
Okay, so
I can give you a copy. I can give you a copy. That was that.
The strongest thing for a believer is dua, right?
Yes.
So just make dua.
They keep, anybody, they keep everybody away. I can remember my big brother, his wife came. My big brother, they came to visit, and because half my family, going back to my great grandparents, half the family has always been here in New York, and the other half has been in the islands.
Yes.
Right, so my family kept moving backward and forward between here and the islands all the time because because the family base was New York. So they when we tried to give the message to them, it was a challenge. Right? So we used to go to New York. I used to go to New York right there with them, visit with them, but they. You try to talk to them about religion as something else. You can't talk to them about religion.
Why do people do that?
They don't. We can talk about anything except religion.
Why do you feel that people don't want to know or speak or have a discussion about it?
I think personally I feel that they're afraid to have any serious discussion with me because maybe I might change their minds. No, that's just my personal opinion.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that they're afraid to sit
No.
and reason with me on religion because they feel I will convince them. So they don't want to be convinced. They're content to do what they are.
Yes.
So that's why they keep me away
Gotcha.
And they keep their kids away from me and everything.
That's something that's very difficult. Always giving dawah to your family. One of the most difficult
kids
things.
away from me and stuff like that. But I maintain good relations with everybody.
Oh, that's good.
I maintain good relations with them necessary.
No.
Because at the end of the day you're gonna answer to Allah,
No.
but that's how it is.
Okay, let's do the last segment. What is your favorite book?
Well, the Quran definitely is my,
Obviously.
is my,
No.
is the Quran is unique in every respect.
No.
Because I see the Quran as a book of, not just a religious book.
Yes.
Because it's more than just a religious book. Yes, it is a religious book of God's religion, but it's a book on life. On life, it tells you, and you know it because this book comes from the creator of life. It is so practical, so it is like instructions on how to live everyday living. So for me, the Quran has been the Quran for me for me. I've always, think the Quran, from the time I was introduced to it until now, that has always, and the Quran has its own flavor.
No.
Right? It has its own flavor. I learned that only, because I remember when I first went to study. And we used to sit at a class with one of the instructors there. I did a lot of private classes when I was studying, right? I did a lot of private classes. Anyone who was willing to sit down with us and do something with us, I did classes with them.
No.
Right? Most students didn't do that. They just did what they did in class, what they did in school and stuff like that.
Okay.
But for me, it was all about learning and knowing. So I didn't just confine myself to go into the Jamia and learn from the Jamia. I saw a lot of people in different groups and learn. We had a class with the Mohsen Khan, Dr. Mohsen Khan, the translator of Bukhari, the translator of those works and stuff like that. We used to have a session with him, myself and a couple others, every Friday evening, right after Maghrib. He used to have by his house. Right, so he used to sit around New York because he was that time he was translating Quran. Translating Bukhari. He hadn't finished translating. He was still translating Quran. So he would teach us stories from Bukhari and stuff like that. So I spent some time with him also because he did the classroom. So everybody used to anyone who's willing to sit down willing to take us from for a while. So I have one of those and one of those teachers that we had, and we used to meet with him, and he told me, he says, the Quran, he said, when you learn the language of the Quran, then you will taste the flavor of the Quran. I didn't understand what he meant until I finished my language department, finished my language course. And I opened the Quran and I read it in Arabic and I understood what it's saying. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's an experience that I can't really describe. It was like, I mean, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. It's really indescribable that you read it. And it is not Allah talking to you through Yusuf Ali or Mahmoud Pickthall or so. Mahmoud Pickthall was my favorite English translation. It was better than the Yusuf Ali. Yusuf Ali was a little old English, but Mahmoud Pickthall. So I read Mahmoud Pickthall many times, 8, 9, 10 times. I read it over and over. I used to read it over and over. So Pickthall was my thing. But when I went to Saudi and I learned Arabic, first time I opened the Quran, I was able to read. I read the Arabic, I understood it. I don't know. I don't know to explain what that experience was. I understood what that teacher used to tell me.
Yes.
He says when you learn the language of the Quran, you will get the real taste of the Quran.
Wow.
Then is when they understood the Quran what it meant.
Wow.
From that point, they had a completely different taste.
Wow.
After that, I didn't need to read English no more. I didn't need Pixel no more. After that point, Pixel was my favorite. I sat on Pixel. Pixel was my favorite up to that point. But then, after I was able to do that to tell us, nothing could match it. The Quran it has a special taste to it. A special taste. That if you taste it, it's hard to go back. It's hard to go back. It has a special taste. It's subhanAllah.
What you got to say to a person who's on the fence with religion, saying that it's like man-made, it doesn't make sense. But I'm just gonna be a good person in society. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna be a human. Yeah. Humanitarian.
Yeah, I know that is what is very current among people today. A lot of them want to becoming humanists.
Yes.
Or
pantheists or something like that.
The philosophy that they're following. But the reality is, that is the person that is not willing to face reality. The person who don't want to have a serious discussion with themselves, not even with somebody else, with themselves about their own reality. This person really did not serious about it. Look, question. I had a good friend that I met. And I knew before I was a Muslim. Okay. I knew him before he was Muslim. I didn't even know he was a Muslim.
Yes.
Right? Because he used to hang out with us.
Okay.
He was a journalist, educated journalist and stuff. So he used to hang out with us.
Yeah.
All right. I never knew he was Muslim, and so because he had a shortened form of his name, like Muslim, like it's a Mo, they don't say Muhammad, so it's Mo. His name was Muhammad, but
But his name was Mo.
No, I don't want to say his name. Okay. He had a shortened, like how Muslims who name Muhammad will say, call himself Mo. All right? He had his thing like that, So, we would call him Ray. I didn't know what his real Muslim. That was not his Muslim name, but that's he called himself. So we would hang together a lot. I never knew he was Muslim. But then one time his father called me, sent a message to me, and he says, I want to come talk to my son. What happened? So my son says, you don't believe in God. I said, okay. So I go to his father. I know his father. His father was Muslim.
Yeah.
So when I go, I saw him. I said, what you doing here? He said, well, this is my father.
But he never said he was a Muslim.
So then that's when I found out he was Muslim, So then, so we had a talk. I said, if you don't believe in God, it's okay. Don't let us even talk about God. Let's talk about you. All right? Let's talk about you. And if we can have a good discussion on you, then we can talk about God after that. But let's talk about you first. Where do you come from? First of all, who is Ray? Who are you? Don't tell me my name is Ray. I know that already. We kick it together for a while ago.
Yeah.
But who really is Ray? And where did he come from? Well, don't tell me you come from your mother. That don't make no sense. I mean, we know that. You're born, But where did you actually come from? And why? What are you doing here in this world? And this time, what you doing? And when you finish here, where you headed? Where you going? I want you to seriously think about these questions. How about you? Tell me. You said, you think. And then you turn to me and you say, Daud, I never thought about those things before. He said, I never gave thought to those things before. I said, man, come on, tell me, man. He said, if you walk up to me and says, who are you? And I says, I'm not sure. I never give thought to it. You asked me, where did they come from? I says, I'm not sure. I never give thought to it. What am I doing? What are you doing here? I'm not sure. I never thought to it. Where are you headed? I'm not sure. I'm not giving thought to it. I said, if I answered you like that, what would you tell me? He said, I think you're going cuckoo or you're just pulling my leg. I said, okay, so apply this to yourself. What do you think? He said, no, you got me. He says, you got me. I said, well, look, until you can understand this and talk about you in a constructive manner, then stop talking about God. You don't know about you. What do you know about God? You don't have to see where about God because you don't even know who Ray is.
That's a very good way of putting it.
Right? You don't even know who Ray is. So, you know what they don't come, but you know about that. You don't know nothing. He said, okay, I agree. Alhamdulillah, eventually he started to practice Islamic study and and he became a practice Islam like that and stuff like that.
That's really good.
But that's basically, for me, a person to think that, I'm my own person. I didn't make myself. I'm a self-made person. I don't need nobody to tell me anything. I don't need no divine guidance. I can think what is right for myself and what's wrong for myself and that.
They'll just say follow the law of society.
Yeah, and we intelligent beings and this. Come on, man, give me a break. Come on, that's not intelligent talking.
No.
That's not intelligent talk. That's couple talk, right? So for me, those people who follow that kind of thing is couple talk. For me, it's coupled. It's not intellectual.
Yes.
Right? It's not intellect. You are an intellect. Almighty God gives you intellect. You got to be able to answer things better than that. It's a coupled. So for me, because you don't want to be bothered to think about it. Because if you seriously think about it, it means you got to change your perspective on reality. And that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And because you don't want to change your perspective on reality, accept reality as is, you prefer to cop out.
That's crazy. It's crazy. And also, it's also a gamble. Because if I was to ascribe to your way of life, according to you, nothing is going to happen to me, pretty much. You guys don't even know. But according to my way of life, if you're wrong, you're going to be punished in the hellfire.
Yeah.
So it's like a 50-50. Which one would you take? Something that won't happen to you or something that could possibly punish you forever, eternal?
Yeah. I had a younger brother. My younger brother, he's passed. My younger brother, he didn't believe in God.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion. I had a serious discussion with him, and I raised these issues and stuff. And he was one of those persons who I said, look, if you are good, you believe in the reality of things that is God, and you do right, you be a good person. Based on following what God says to you and stuff like that. If that is correct, and this is real, in the end, when you come out on top. But if it's not real, if it's not true, you can still say, I've been a good man. You still come out, I've been a good person, I'm a good man. Nobody can dispute that because you were. All right? So in any case, you come out on top. Right? But if you don't, and you do your own thing and you come up beyond, at the end you realize, ooh, oops, I was wrong. You was right. So at that point, you be surprised. You wait for a surprise. You want to wait till you be surprised. At that point, you can't do anything. You can only say, oops. And then what?
It's too late.
It's too late. You can't do nothing. Because it's not that you can go and change and everything. I know people can be saying, oh God, send me back. I see it, I know it, I'm correct, I understand now. Let me go. But the time is finished. You gotta make it right now.
Oh my Lord, send me back.
Yeah, send me back, And so he says, I don't mind being surprised. So he said. So when he died, I carried his body to the grave. I joined with my other relatives and stuff.
Yes.
And he's buried in South Jersey and all that.
Yes.
And he went to the graveyard with him.
Yes.
And I put him in the box. I put him in the bench, I put him in the grave.
Yes.
And when the meal stood up right up front, and I looked at him. So I said, look, I hope that you understand the surprise now. I hope you understand the surprise. I hope you're okay with the surprise that you made. Right? I said, I know you understand what I'm saying right now. I know you can hear me.
No.
Right? Because I know people in your that city. I know you can hear me right now.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Right? I hope that you're okay with the surprise that you find right now. I said that to him. Right, that's great. And I walked away. I said, I talked to you, and I spoke with you, but you preferred the surprise. So I hope that you're okay with the surprise you find right now. And I walked away and I left the guy. So that was my own brother. That was my own brother, because I talked to him. I couldn't get him to come around. I talked to him. I was sitting down here sitting a long time talking, trying to reason with him. But he says, I don't mind being. He said, I don't mind being surprised. So that's why I talked to him like that. He's in the grave sitting, I put him down, and I said, I hope that now you understand. And I hope you're okay with this.
Thanks, I'll let him make his last.
I mean.
Just like Shaq, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you. I definitely would like to have you on more, inshallah, in the future. Inshallah, people could get benefits from this, just hearing your story, your path, or what you went through to be here today, helping us in this community. May Allah bless and reward your work and effort. And actually be on camera on this one. It's the Worldly Life Podcast. Follow the channel. Live here in Nia Masjid. We're here with Imam Daud. Shahada. Appreciate you. May Allah bless and reward you. Don't get your funny up, get your deen up. And inshallah, we plan on having the Shaykh back in the future. Any last word of advice for the people?
Just always continue to search for the truth. Always say the truth. The truth, you will always recognize it when you find it.
No.
You always recognize the truth because the truth is unique and it's always in accordance with reality. So you always will recognize it when you see it.